Rain hammered the tin roof of the roadside motel like an angry drumline. Amara pressed her back to the door, heart clapping against her ribs, while the stranger, tall, breath ragged, a fresh cut across his brow, stared at her with eyes that asked 100 questions and had time for none. "Keep your voice low," she whispered. In the hallway, boots thudded, voices argued, and the night manager pleaded, "Olga, I told you, no single men tonight. Only couples. It's too dangerous." The knock came like a gunshot. "Room 14. Open up." Amara's fingers trembled around the handle. She took a breath she didn't have. "If they see you alone, they'll drag you out," she told the stranger. "They're looking for you." "Why?" he asked, even as he reached for the towel to wipe his face. "I don't know," she said. "But I saw them at the bus stop, the way they scanned the crowd, like they knew your face." Another knock, harder. "Open the door. Prove you are a couple. Now." Amara swallowed. She was 22, a scholarship student at Lagos City University, final year economics. Her world was lectures, long queues, and side jobs to keep the lights on. She didn't even know this man's name. He met her gaze. "We can say we're married," he offered. "They'll believe it." "They won't," she said, the words dry as dust. "Not tonight. Not after the street fights. They're hunting strangers." Footsteps paused outside. Keys jangled. "If they open this door and see the truth, you're gone. What do we do?" His voice softened. "Tell me. I'll follow your lead." Her mind raced. The nightman at reception had hissed a warning as he handed them the key a few minutes earlier. "If security stops by, act married. Real married, you hear? They're checking rooms. The boys outside are dragging out any lone men." She could feel the storm's cold traveling through the floor, up her legs, into the part of her that still believed rules protected you. But rules looked different when danger pressed its forehead against your door. "I'm Amara," she said, voice barely there. He answered, "Daniel." Then, almost apologetic, "Daniel Cole." Another pounding on the wood. "Last warning." She closed her eyes. She could hear Mama's voice in her head, steady, careful, prayerful. She could see her father's cracked phone, his call that didn't come this month because he was still chasing carpentry work in Ibadan. She could feel the weight of the rent she owed and the way life kept asking for more than she had. And there was this man who, for reasons she didn't understand, was a target tonight. "Please," Daniel said simply. "Whatever you need me to do." Her hands were shaking. "We have to make them believe," she whispered. She looked away, fought the heat in her face, and chose the kind of courage that doesn't look like the movies. The kind of courage that lives in sacrifice. "Okay," Amara breathed and reached for the bolt. The corridor reeked of wet clothes and cigarettes. 2 security men stood there in matching rain-slicked jackets, the night manager peeking from behind them like a thin shadow. The older guard's eyes moved from Amara's damp hair to the man behind her. "We had reports of trouble," he said. "And of a man running from the road. This is a couples-only night. Show me you're not lying." Amara's throat tightened. She stepped back, letting them see the scattered shoes on the floor, the 2 damp jackets on a single hanger, the suitcase she dropped in a rush. She reached for Daniel's hand. It was warm, solid. She did not look at his face. The younger guard took a slow, suspicious breath. "Proof?" he said. "We need to be sure. Some people are hiding criminals." The old guard folded his arms. "We'll wait." The hall went quiet enough that the rain sounded like applause. In that ring of silence, Amara made a decision she would remember for the rest of her life. To keep him safe in that moment. To hold the door closed on the worst of the world. To shoulder the cost herself. She led Daniel away from the threshold, past the flickering bulb to the edge of the bed. She did not shake now. She did not break. She spoke one sentence, steady and clear. "We choose each other tonight." And then, without spectacle, without romance, without any of the movie glitter, she let the door swing against the latch, turned off the lamp, and gave up the last piece of childhood she had kept to herself. No one watching from the hall saw anything. But they heard the truth they wanted to hear, the low murmur of bodies close, the unsteady breaths of people who belonged to each other. After a long minute, a throat was cleared on the other side of the door. Footsteps retreated. The hallway emptied. The rain went on. When the silence wrapped them again, Amara pulled the bed sheet up to her collarbone and stared at the shadowy ceiling. She felt her heart running like it had been trained for this. She was not crying. She did not regret helping him. But the room felt like a confession she wasn't ready to say out loud. "I'm sorry," Daniel said. It was the kind of apology that carried more than one meaning. "You didn't have to." I did, she said, because in her math, saving someone counted as something you do when it's you or them. You would have been taken. He nodded in the dark. I owe you my life. She didn't know what to do with that sentence, so she turned it over in her mind like a coin she might spend later. Why are they looking for you? She asked. Are you in trouble? He hesitated. The rain softened against the roof. It's complicated, he said finally. There was an attack at the fundraiser. I shouldn't have been there. Someone tipped them off. It was chaos. He paused. I got away. From who? People who want to make a point, he said, voice tightening. And people who think I'm worth something as a message. Amara frowned. Worth something? Daniel shifted, and she heard the soft scrape of the towel on the chair. I'll explain, he promised. But once it's safe. She pulled her knees to her chest under the sheet. Outside, a siren cried and faded. Amara's phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from her roommate, Zuri. Where are you? Protests on Admiralty Way. Don't come back tonight. Amara stared at the screen and typed, I'm safe. Stayed at a motel. Long story. She hovered, then deleted the last two words. She didn't know how to tell this story to anyone yet. Thank you, Daniel said again. I don't know how to repay. A new noise sliced the quiet, the squeal of wipers, a car door slam, quick, sure footsteps. Amara froze. Daniel sat up. The sound had a different weight from the earlier patrol. Not drunk, not nervous. Professional. There was no knock this time. 3 fast taps, a pause, 2 more. Sounded like a pattern. The door stayed shut, but Amara felt the hair rise on her arms. Mr. Cole? A voice called softly. Not a guard. Not the manager. A voice used to being obeyed. Open the door. We need to move you now. Amara's breath stopped halfway to her lungs. Mr. Cole? Daniel's jaw clenched in the blue wash of the TV's standby light. He swung his legs off the bed, the towel slipping to the floor, and pulled on his shirt with hands that had stopped shaking. He did not look surprised. He looked cornered. Who is that? Amara whispered. He didn't answer right away. He reached into his jacket pocket and produced a phone whose case looked more like steel than plastic. He turned it face down, hesitated, then met her eyes. Amara, he said quietly, I didn't tell you everything. Another set of taps, the same pattern. The voice outside grew more urgent. Sir, the gate won't hold long. We have to go. Amara's mouth was dry. What aren't you telling me? He seemed to weigh honesty against the storm. Then, in a tone that carried money and danger and a life far from roadside motels, he said, My name isn't Daniel. It's David Cole. And I'm not running from a street fight. The name hit the room like another bolt of lightning. Amara had heard it before, on billboards, on podcasts her entrepreneurship professor loved to play, in headlines about tech hubs and mobile banking apps that changed how markets moved in West Africa and beyond. David Cole. The man people called the youngest billionaire in West Africa. The face on glossy magazine covers. The donor whose name topped the new library on her own campus. Footsteps multiplied outside. Someone spoke into a radio. The manager hissed, Police are on the road. Amara stared at the man who had been a stranger an hour ago and was now a story she could hardly hold. Her mind tried to pick a feeling, shock, anger, fear, betrayal, and found all of them at once. If you're David Cole, she whispered, then who is after you? He opened his mouth to answer, but the door handle turned. The latch held, for the moment. A deeper voice, official and sharp, cut through the wood. Open up. This is the police. We have questions for the occupant of room 14. Amara's pulse stumbled. She looked at the door. She looked back at David Cole, whose fame had just flooded their tiny room. She thought of what she had given to save him. Of how big this was. Of how small she felt inside it. Do we open? She asked. Not yet, he said, stepping toward the peephole. His posture changed, no longer hunted but calculating. Those are not my men. Another voice joined the first, smooth, practiced, and terrifyingly patient. Mr. Cole, if you don't open this door in 10 seconds, we will force entry. Amara's hand found the edge of the sheet again, clinging without thinking. She felt the room shrink around them, felt the night squeeze tighter. Somewhere beneath the fear, a new thought flickered. Whatever happens next, nothing in her life would ever be the same. David checked the time, listened to the rain, and then turned back to her with a decision in his eyes. Stay behind me, he said. The handle turned again. The latch groaned. And then the lights went out. Dark swallowed the room. The storm dimmed to a muffled hiss, like rain falling behind a closed curtain. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then metal scraped metal outside, and the latch rattled under a heavy hand. "Generator cut," David said, voice steady. "They want darkness." Amara's eyes tried to drink light from nowhere. She could still make out his outline, a broad-shouldered silhouette against the faint gray blur of the window. He took 2 quiet steps, then another, mapping the room as if he had measured it earlier. A fist hit the door. "Open up now." The voice wore authority like a uniform. David's tone stayed calm. "Not police," he murmured. "Real police identify themselves with names and badge numbers. These men gave a threat, not a protocol." He touched the wall, found the dresser, and slid something small free from under it. A flashlight flicked on, not a bright beam but a thin, tight circle of white. He cupped it to dull the glow and aimed it at the floor. Amara blinked hard. Shapes returned. Damp jackets. A cheap mirror. A chair half broken from years of carrying other people's weight. She sat up, wrapped in the sheet, heartbeat loud in her ear. "How did you know the power would go?" she asked. "I've seen this method." He kept the beam low, away from the door. "Cut light. Force panic. Force mistakes." Another voice called from the hall, kinder than the first but no less dangerous. "Sir, it's unsafe to remain. We'll escort you." David's jaw worked. "If I trust the wrong escort," he said softly to Amara, "we both disappear." The door shook under his shoulder. The latch groaned again. A piece of plaster cracked near the frame and drifted to the floor like falling ash. "Please," Amara whispered. She was not begging him to open. She was begging the night to pass through without breaking them. "What do we do?" He moved to the bed, set the flashlight on the mattress and tugged his damp shirt straight. In the glow, the cut on his brow had stopped bleeding but left a dark thread across his skin. He looked less like a billboard now and more like a man who had run for his life in the rain. "I called my head of security when I left the fundraiser," he said. "Then the convoy was compromised. We split. I ditched the car. You saw the rest." "Who wants you?" Amara pressed. "2 groups," he said. "One wants access, kidnap for ransom, force a deal, make a point. The other wants silence." He glanced at the door. "We don't have time for the long version." Another thud. A hinge squealed. Someone outside muttered, "Bring the ram." David turned to the window. The motel faced a narrow alley packed with old generators and plastic buckets catching leaks. A sheet of corrugated metal rattled in the wind. He tried the frame. It stuck. He tried again, harder. It held. "They nailed it after the last break-ins," Amara said. "The manager told us at check-in. No one should climb in. Or out." He exhaled slowly, thinking. "Okay," he said. "We switched the board." "What board?" "Who controls the story when that door opens?" He looked at her with a focus that made space in the panic. "If they get in and see a frightened student and a man with money, they choose how this ends. If they get in and see a fiancé defending his partner, we buy seconds. Seconds are everything." Her mouth went dry. The sheet suddenly felt like armor too thin for war. "Fiancé." "Yes," he said. "Lagos loves a bold love story. Even in danger, people hesitate to ruin a family in public." He gave a small, quick smile that had charmed entire conferences. "And I suspect you can act better than those men can lie." She stared back. "I'm a final-year economist." "Which means you know incentives," he said. "Make the wrong outcome costly for them." Another voice outside, impatient, tired, not trying to sound official anymore. "On 3. 1. "Wait," Amara said, mind racing. "They called you Mr. Cole. If everyone knows you're here, won't real police come too?" "They will," he said. "My people are tracking my phone. But whoever cut the generator has friends. We need a bridge until help reaches this doorway." He stepped closer, gentler now. "Amara, I am sorry for everything tonight has asked of you. If there was a path that didn't cost you, I would take it." Her throat tightened, but she nodded. "What do you need me to do?" "Stand with me," he said. "And trust that I won't let them touch you." The ram hit the door. The frame shivered. The chain screamed. The thin circle of flashlight skittered across the floor and died as he clicked it off. The handle spun. The crack widened. A blade of corridor light cut into the room, showing dust in the air and the hard edges of men outside. David squeezed Amara's hand once, quick. Then he pulled the door open himself, just as the ram swung again, so the force carried the men stumbling into the room and gave him the first move. "What is this?" he barked, voice full, owner strong, not a guest but a landlord who had caught bad tenants. He stepped in front of Amara so cleanly it looked choreographed. "You break into our room without a warrant? Without cause." The men froze a fraction, not ready for power that didn't wear a uniform. 3 of them. 2 in dark rain jackets, 1 in a faded shirt with the word security peeling from his chest. None wore badges. "Sir," said the kind voice now closer. He was mid-30s and neat beard, eyes too calm. "We have orders to remove you for your safety." "From who?" David demanded. "CP's office," the man said smoothly. "Name?" David snapped. Silence. The bearded man's eyes flicked to Amara, to the sheet around her shoulders, to the damp jacket on a single hanger. He recalculated. "We have to go," he said, shifting to a tone that might have soothed a crowd. "Your wife can come." "Fiancé," David corrected. "And she is not stepping outside with nameless men in borrowed jackets." He moved half an inch to the left, blocking more of Amara. "You have 5 seconds to show real identification or we call the commissioner." "Call him," the bearded man said easily. "Network is down." David's jaw flexed. "Then we wait for uniform." The bearded man's smile didn't reach his eyes. "We don't have that time." His hand dipped into his jacket. It came out empty, open, placating, but the move made the other 2 men shift with the memory of metal. Amara felt the room tilt toward the kind of danger that breaks rooms forever. "Sir," the bearded man said again. "No one wants noise. Walk with us." Rain drummed. A horn honked somewhere far. The motel manager hovered at the far end of the corridor, praying without moving his lips. 3 seconds, David said and began to count. 1. Footsteps pounded from outside. Different feet, fast, many organized. A harsh voice cut across the bearded man's smoothness. "Armed police. Hands where I can see them." The hallway exploded into shout and shuffle. A real flashlight burned white. The bearded man's calm cracked for the first time. He broke backward, hand going for pocket, then thought better and threw both palms up. The 2 in rain jackets did the same. "Step out," a command voice ordered from the corridor. "Not yet," David called back. "Female inside." "Male voice identify," the command snapped. "David Cole," he said, and the name rang like a password. The corridor paused, recalibrated. "And 1 civilian." "Understood. Keep your hands visible. We're clearing." The bearded man lifted his chin at David, a tiny, private nod that meant, "This round is yours." He let himself be pulled back into the corridor where 3 officers in dark tactical gear closed around him. One officer leaned into the doorway, face stern, rifle point lowered but ready. "Sir," the officer said to David, with the respect people used on TV when they spoke to people whose names made news. "We're moving you to a secure location." Amara exhaled for the first time in a minute. Relief rushed her, and crashed against a wall when she remembered what came next. Secure for him. What about her? "Her too," David said at once as if he'd read her thought. "She comes with me." "We can't protect unknown civilians," the officer said. "Protocol is." "Override it," David said. He didn't raise his voice. He added weight instead. "She is a material witness." The officer hesitated, radio crackling at his shoulder. "Fine," he said. "Both of you. Move." They were halfway into the corridor when another sound knifed through the noise. Tires screaming, engines revving, then the slam of a vehicle against the motel's rusted gate hard enough to bend it into a mouth. Shouts. A burst of breaking glass. Someone cried out. "Back!" the officer shouted. He pushed David and Amara inside and swung the door, but the latch was broken now, dangling like a torn button. A shadow streaked across the window. The bearded man, briefly free in the chaos, glanced back at the room with a look that said, "We will meet again." "Exit rear," another officer yelled. The team pivoted, professional and fast. One officer kicked the stuck window frame until the nails screamed and the wood split. Rain, cold and righteous, punched into the room. The alley yawned beyond. "Go," the first officer ordered. David climbed through first, then turned and reached for Amara. She hesitated an instant, her palm on flaking paint, her bare feet awake to the world, and then she stepped into the rain and into the alley where generators coughed like old men. A black SUV shot past the alley mouth, window down, a barrel glinting. An officer dragged a trash bin into the gap, turned it sideways to block view, and hauled himself through after them. Move. Second vehicle incoming. They moved, over puddles, around broken buckets, beneath a clothesline that sagged under forgotten shirts. The alley led to a side street strangled with parked Kiki and a shuttered tailor's shop. 2 more SUVs idled there, engines quiet, lights off. Real police, real plates, real drivers who kept their eyes forward and their questions for later. "Get in," the officer said. "Now." Amara reached for the rear handle. It didn't open. The officer touched her elbow, guiding her to the middle SUV. With him, he said, and the door swung wide like it had been waiting for her. She slid onto leather that smelled like new money, water dripping from her hair onto a seat that had never met poverty before. David climbed in after her. The door thumped shut, and the city's noise became a picture behind glass. The driver said nothing. The convoy rolled, smooth and deliberate, and took a turn that swallowed the motel, the alley, and the bearded man into the wet dark of Lagos at midnight. Only then did David let himself look at Amara fully. Rain had painted her lashes silver. Fear sat high in her shoulders, but her chin didn't drop. "Thank you," he said again, softer now. She swallowed. "Will they come again?" "They don't like to lose," he said. "But they don't like noise either. We have a window." "To where?" she asked. "Safe house," the driver answered, first words like gravel. Then HQ. Amara stared at the rain-struck windshield, the city sliding by, shut kiosks, a woman holding a baby under an umbrella at a night pharmacy, two teenage boys riding one bicycle, laughing like the rain was their friend. The convoy slowed at a checkpoint. Officers waved them through like they were invisible. She turned to David. "When you get to safety, what happens to me?" "You come inside," he said. "And then?" He looked out his window, rain fracturing his reflection. "Then we talk," he said. "And we decide what to tell the world." "What world?" Amara asked, a tired smile trying and failing to show. "The one that wakes up," he said, "and asks why the richest young man in the region spent the night in a motel with a stranger." He paused. "And why that stranger looks like a hero." She shook her head. "I don't want to be a headline." He studied her. "Sometimes we don't choose the headline," he said gently. "We only choose our part in the truth." He hesitated as if the next words weighed more than the car. "And there is one truth you should hear from me before anyone else says it their own way." The convoy turned off the main road and into a quiet residential stretch where high walls wore coils of barbed wire like necklaces. The middle SUV slowed for a discreet gate that slid open without a sound. David faced her. His eyes held apology and something like resolve. "The fundraiser tonight," he said, "was for a scholarship foundation. We had just signed an agreement with Lagos City University." "I heard about it," Amara said. "People were excited. They said it would change lives." "It will," he said. "It already has." He took a breath. "Your name is on that list, Amara." "What list?" "The scholars," he said. "The ones we cover fully. Tuition, housing, living allowance. You were shortlisted, then confirmed this afternoon." The official announcement was set for morning. Her mouth opened, closed. The car eased into the compound. Security lights glowed like quiet moons. A guard saluted the driver. Amara found her voice. "Are you saying?" She stopped. The words felt too big. "Are you saying you were already part of my story before tonight?" "Yes," he said. "I didn't know you would be the one in room 14. But I knew your name." She blinked hard at him, heat rising behind her eyes, not from shame or fear now, but from a blaze of something she couldn't place. Hope, anger, gratitude, disbelief, all lit at once. The SUV stopped. The driver opened David's door from outside. Before he stepped out, David added one more sentence, quiet and heavy with the future. "And so does my mother." Amara froze in her seat, the sentence echoing louder than the thunder outside. "And so does my mother." The way he said it wasn't casual, it carried a history, a warning, and a promise all at once. David stepped out first, greeted by men in black raincoats who moved like shadows, swift, silent, professional. Their earpieces glimmered under the floodlight as they checked corners, scanned rooftops, and nodded at him before motioning for Amara to follow. She hesitated, clutching her small bag to her chest. She wasn't sure if she was entering safety or another kind of storm. "Amara," David called softly, turning back to her. "It's okay. You're safe here." She swallowed the lump in her throat and climbed out, the cool night air brushing her damp skin. The compound was massive, high walls crowned with razor wire, and a sleek modern mansion in the center, its lights dimmed except for a soft amber glow spilling from a tall glass window. Amara's eyes widened. "You live here?" "Sometimes," he said. "Mostly in Lekki. This is one of the safe houses." A woman in her late 50s emerged from the entrance, draped in a royal blue wrapper and matching head tie. Her presence commanded respect, graceful but firm, the kind of woman who had raised her voice only when it mattered. "David," she said, rushing forward, her gold earrings catching the light. "You're safe. Thank God." She embraced him tightly before pulling back to inspect his cut. Your head is bleeding, what happened? I'll explain, Mama, David said softly, but she was already eyeing Amara, her gaze sharp and searching. Who is this girl? Amara felt her knees wobble under that gaze. She tried to speak but found her throat dry. David answered, she's the reason I'm alive tonight. His mother blinked. The reason? She hid me. Protected me when I was being hunted. Madame Cole's expression softened a little but didn't lose its suspicion. And who are you, young woman? Amara clasped her hands in front of her, voice trembling slightly. My name is Amara Uday, Ma. I'm a student at Lagos City University. David's mother frowned. Uday? From Nsukka? Yes, Ma. My father's a carpenter there. Madame Cole's eyes darted to David. And what was she doing in a motel with you? David took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. The men who attacked the fundraiser followed me. She was there by coincidence and she helped me hide. They searched the building. Madame Cole's lips tightened. Coincidence? Yes, Mama, he said quietly. And if not for her, I might not have made it out. The older woman sighed heavily, still studying Amara like a puzzle missing a few pieces. All right, she said at last. You both need to rest. Come inside. Inside, the house looked like something out of a dream. High ceilings, soft chandeliers, clean marble floors that clicked faintly beneath Amara's wet slippers. She'd only seen such luxury on television. It made her nervous to even walk across it. A young maid appeared from a hallway carrying towels and a first aid kit. Good evening, Ma, she greeted respectfully. Take them to the guest wing, Madame Cole said, turning to David. Your father is calling from Abuja. He's frantic. You should speak to him soon. David nodded. After I make sure Amara is settled. His mother's gaze softened again. She touched his cheek gently. You scared me, my son. You carried too much burden for one person. I'm fine, Mama. She gave Amara one last assessing look before walking away, her slippers whispering against the marble floor. Amara exhaled quietly, her entire body still tense. David glanced at her. Don't mind her. She's just protective. I understand, Amara said, though she didn't. Everything here felt foreign, too rich, too polished, too powerful for someone like her. He guided her down a corridor lined with framed photos. David shaking hands with presidents, cutting ribbons at new offices, smiling beside engineers and investors. She realized then how deep his world ran, and how far hers was from it. The maid opened the guest room door. It was bigger than Amara's entire apartment in Yaba. A massive bed stood in the center, draped in clean white linen. The scent of lavender floated through the air. Amara hesitated at the doorway. I shouldn't stay here. You've done enough already. I can take a bus home tomorrow. David shook his head. You can't go back yet? The people who attacked us won't stop tonight. She frowned. Why me then? Why bring me here? Because they saw your face, he said quietly. You helped me. That makes you a target too. Her stomach dropped. Target? He nodded. They'll think you know something. Amara sat slowly on the edge of the bed, the enormity of it settling over her like fog. So what happens now? I'll make sure you're protected, David said. And when this is over, I'll find a way to repay what you've done. She looked up at him, half smiling through her exhaustion. I didn't do it for repayment. I just didn't want to watch someone die. He held her gaze, the air thick between them. Still, he said softly, you risked everything. There was a silence, heavy but not uncomfortable. Outside, thunder rolled again. Amara rubbed her palms together. You said your mother knows my name? Yes. Why? He hesitated, leaning against the doorway. She helped choose the scholarship finalists. She runs the foundation's education board. She picked you. Amara blinked. What? She said you reminded her of herself at your age. Ambitious, strong, always fighting uphill. He smiled faintly. She told me she saw something special in you. Amara lowered her eyes, overwhelmed. I never imagined she even knew I existed. She does, David said. And she will be grateful you saved her son. The maid entered quietly, setting down a tray of steaming tea and some bread rolls. Ma said to make sure the young lady eats something. Thank you, Amara said shyly. David straightened. I'll let you rest. We'll talk in the morning. She nodded. Good night. He turned to leave but paused at the door. Amara, what you did tonight, most people wouldn't have done it. I won't forget. She managed a tired smile. Just don't let it get me in trouble. He chuckled quietly, the sound soft but sincere. I'll try not to. Then he left, closing the door gently behind him. Amara sipped her tea, staring at the raindrops tracing lines on the window. Every muscle in her body ached, not from pain, but from the weight of everything that had happened in a single night. She'd lost something she could never reclaim. Saved a stranger. Discovered that stranger was a billionaire. And now she was inside his mansion, caught in a world that felt too big for her name. A tear slid down her cheek. She wiped it away before it could fall. She lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts restless. God, she whispered, what have I done? At dawn, the first light stretched over the compound. Amara stirred awake to the sound of voices in the hallway, guards briefing someone, the hum of a coffee machine. Then came the sharp sound of heels clicking on marble. Madame Cole. Amara sat up quickly, adjusting the bedsheet. The door opened and Madame Cole entered, now in a white blouse and gold jewelry. Good morning, my dear, she said coolly. Good morning, Ma. I trust you slept well? Yes, Ma. Thank you. Madame Cole studied her quietly for a moment. Then she said, my son told me everything. About last night, and about what you did. Amara lowered her eyes, unsure what to say. Madame Cole continued, you're a brave girl. But I want you to know, this situation will attract attention. The police, the press, even the university authorities. And when they find out where my son spent the night. Her voice trailed off. Amara's chest tightened. I understand, Ma. I didn't want any of this. I just tried to help. The woman sighed. I believe you. But the world doesn't. They will twist the story. Amara blinked back tears. Ma, I swear. Madame Cole raised a hand. Relax, child. I'm not accusing you. She sat beside her, surprising Amara with the gesture. I just need to know, do you love my son? Amara's head snapped up. What? The older woman's eyes were calm but sharp. I saw the way you looked at him last night. Maybe it's gratitude. Maybe something else. But answer me honestly. Amara stammered. No, Ma. I barely know him. He was just someone I helped. Madame Cole watched her closely for a long moment, then smiled faintly. Good. Because my son's life is complicated. And I wouldn't want yours destroyed by it. She stood, adjusting her wrapper. Stay here today. My security will take you to campus tomorrow for questioning. The authorities will want your statement. Amara's heart skipped. Questioning? It's procedure, Madame Cole said. Just tell them the truth. She paused at the doorway, turned and said one last thing before leaving. And Amara? Yes, Ma? If anyone asks what happened in that motel, between you and my son, choose your words wisely. The door closed softly. Amara sat there for a long time, staring at the untouched cup of tea, realizing that the hardest part of her story hadn't even begun yet. Because the truth wasn't simple. And sooner or later, everyone, from the police to the press, would want to hear it. And when they did, no one would believe that a poor student and a billionaire had met by chance. The morning sun poured through the high glass windows, turning the marble floors into gold. But to Amara, everything still felt cold. She sat alone in the guest room, staring at the steaming cup of tea that had long gone untouched. Her thoughts were a storm. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw flashes of the night before, the pounding at the motel door, the fear, the darkness, and the decision that changed everything. She'd given up her purity to save a man she barely knew. And now, the world outside this house might never understand. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she said quietly. David stepped in, wearing a crisp white shirt and black trousers. He looked rested but serious, the small cut on his forehead neatly bandaged. You're up early, he said. I couldn't sleep. He nodded, taking a few steps inside. Neither could I. He hesitated, then asked gently, Can we talk? Amara nodded. He sat in the chair across from her. My security team is investigating last night. The people who attacked the fundraiser were part of an organized network. They were after me for ransom, but they didn't expect me to escape. Amara's eyes narrowed. And now they think I know something? Yes, David said. Which is why I want to keep you safe. Until everything is settled, you'll stay here. She shifted uneasily. And when the truth comes out, when people find out you were in a motel with a student, they'll say terrible things about me. David looked at her for a long time, then said softly, Let them talk. I know the truth. And when the time comes, I'll defend you. His words carried weight, sincere but dangerous. She looked down at her hands. You don't understand, David. The university doesn't care about truth. The news doesn't care. All they'll see is a rich man and a poor girl in the same room overnight. They'll destroy me. David leaned forward, his tone firm. Then I'll make sure they don't. Amara frowned. How? He didn't answer immediately. Instead he said, the world believes what I say. And if I have to use that power to protect you, I will. She stared at him, uncertain whether to feel grateful or terrified. Before she could respond, the door opened and one of David's guards entered, holding a phone. Sir, the commissioner of police is on the line. He wants to brief you privately. David stood. I'll take it in the study. He glanced at Amara. Stay here. I'll come back soon. When he left, the silence returned, thick and heavy. Amara rose and walked slowly to the window. The compound was alive now. Guards walking the perimeter, gardeners trimming flowers, drivers washing the fleet of black SUVs. From where she stood, she could see the city's skyline far beyond the tall walls, busy and indifferent. She whispered to herself, if they find out what really happened, will they still call me brave? By noon, Madame Cole called her to the dining room. The table was set for lunch, silver dishes gleaming under warm lights. David sat at the head, his mother beside him, dignified as ever. Come, my dear, Madame Cole said, motioning for her to sit. You should eat. Thank you, Ma, Amara said politely, sitting at the far end. They ate quietly for a few minutes before Madame Cole spoke again. The authorities will hold a press briefing this evening, she said. They'll confirm that David was found safe, and that the suspects have been arrested. Amara exhaled with relief. That's good news. Yes, the woman said, then added carefully, but they may ask questions about the person who helped him. Amara looked up. Me? Yes, Madame Cole said. I advised them to keep your name private. But the press, they always dig deeper. David interrupted, his tone calm but firm. If the story breaks, we control it. Not them. His mother gave him a long, wary look. Control it how, David? He turned to Amara. By telling the truth before they twist it. Madame Cole frowned. And what is the truth, my son? David hesitated, choosing his words carefully. That she risked her life to save mine. That's all anyone needs to know. His mother arched an eyebrow. You're forgetting the other part, the one that people will whisper about no matter what you say. David's expression hardened. Then let them whisper. Amara looked between them, feeling small again. Please, she said softly. Don't fight over me. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Madame Cole sighed. You didn't, child. But you've stepped into a world where every small thing becomes a headline. She stood and rested a hand on Amara's shoulder. Just tell the truth when the time comes. Nothing more. That evening, news cameras lined up outside the compound gates. David gave a short statement through the fence, calm and composed, thanking the police and assuring the public he was fine. He mentioned that a brave citizen had helped him, but refused to share her name for her protection. Inside the house, Amara watched the broadcast on a flat-screen TV, her heart pounding as she saw his face on every channel. Her phone, charging on the side table, began buzzing with messages from classmates. Amara, was that you? Girl, your name is trending on X. People are saying you were at a hotel with him. What happened? Her stomach dropped. The worst had already begun. She opened X, Twitter. The hashtag David Cole Motel mystery was everywhere. Photos of David at the fundraiser. Photos of her old scholarship award post. Someone had even dug up her Instagram profile, pictures of her in her hostel, wearing her cheap Ankara dress and smiling with friends. The comments burned. So that's the brave student? A beg, she knew who he was. These girls will do anything for money. Billionaire or not, she trapped him. Her hands trembled. She turned off the phone. David walked in a few minutes later and stopped when he saw her face. You've seen it? She nodded silently, her lips shaking. They're calling me names, David. They're saying I planned it. That I seduced you. He clenched his jaw. Ignore them. I can't, she cried. These people know where I study. They're posting my hostel address. David's eyes darkened. Then you're not going back there. Ever. I can't stay here forever either, she said, tears rolling down her cheeks. I'm not like you, David. When rich people make mistakes, the world forgives them. When poor people do the right thing, they still get punished. He took a slow breath and crouched beside her. Amara, look at me. She lifted her eyes to him. I will fix this, he said quietly. I promise. How? He hesitated for a long moment, then said, by telling them what really happened. Her chest tightened. You mean, everything? Yes, he said. Everything. Including what you did to save me. Amara froze. No, David. You can't. If they hear that, they'll tear me apart. My family will disown me. They'll respect you, he said softly. You gave up everything for a stranger. That's not shame. That's sacrifice. She shook her head fiercely. You don't understand. In our world, a woman who loses her purity before marriage isn't called brave. She's called ruined. David's face softened, full of guilt. I can't let them ruin you. Not after what you did for me. She wiped her eyes. Then don't say anything. Let them think whatever they want. I can survive lies. I can't survive the truth. They sat in silence for a long while, the television quietly replaying the news outside. Finally, David stood. Rest, Amara. Tomorrow we'll go to the university and give your statement. Whatever happens, I'll be there. When he left, Amara lay on the couch, tears soaking her sleeve. For the first time, she began to wonder if saving him had truly saved her life, or destroyed it. Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story has gripped you so far, make sure you subscribe, like, and share to see what happens next. The next morning, the air around the Cole mansion felt heavy with tension. Police patrol vehicles still lined the street outside, journalists loitered beyond the gates, and the hum of conversation seemed to echo in every corridor. Amara stood before the mirror in the guest room, her fingers trembling slightly as she buttoned the pale blue blouse the maid had laid out for her. She didn't recognize the girl staring back at her. The sleepless eyes, the sadness under her smile, the quiet fear that no amount of courage could mask. A soft knock came at the door. Come in, she said. It was David again, dressed in a navy blue suit that fit him perfectly. His hair was neatly brushed back, his expression calm but purposeful. You're ready? She nodded. If ready means terrified, then yes. He gave a faint smile. You'll be fine. I'm going with you. She hesitated. David, I don't think that's a good idea. If we walk in together, the story gets worse. He shook his head. If I let you face this alone, I become what they already think I am, a man who used a girl and abandoned her. Amara's voice dropped. But if you stand by me, they'll twist it. They'll say I trapped you into marriage. David sighed softly. They'll say what they want no matter what we do. But I'd rather they lie about us standing together than about me leaving you behind. The sincerity in his tone made her chest tighten. You shouldn't have to fix my life, David. He looked her straight in the eyes. I owe you my life, Amara. Let me stand beside you today. The car ride to the university felt endless. As their convoy entered the gates, hundreds of students gathered, phones out, whispering. Some pointed. Others just stared. Amara could feel their eyes burning holes into her skin. Her heart pounded as she stepped out of the vehicle, trying to hide the tremor in her hands. Over there, sir, one of the police officers said, leading them toward the administrative block. Inside, the vice-chancellor, a tall woman with sharp glasses, waited with a team of officials and a few reporters. Her face was polite but stiff. Mr. Cole, she said with a small bow. It's an honor to have you here, though I wish it were under different circumstances. David smiled politely. Thank you, Professor. The VC's eyes shifted to Amara. Miss you day. Good morning, Ma. You've caused quite a stir on this campus, the woman said not unkindly. Please sit. Amara obeyed, sitting beside David. The tension was thick enough to touch. We received the police report, the VC said, flipping through some papers. And certain social media allegations. We wanted to hear directly from you both before making any statement to the public. David leaned forward. Madam Vice-Chancellor, Amara risked her safety to save my life. She deserves protection, not interrogation. The VC nodded. And she will have it. But you must understand, Mr. Cole, our students' conduct affects the university's image. We've had sponsors calling, reporters camping outside our gates. Amara's eyes fell to her lap. I didn't do anything wrong, Ma, she said quietly. The VC studied her closely. I believe you, my dear. But this is Nigeria. Public opinion can destroy even the innocent. For now, we'll suspend all interviews. No statements to the press. David frowned. That won't stop them from spreading lies. The VC sighed. Then you'll need to give them something else to talk about. Amara looked up. What do you mean? The older woman hesitated, choosing her words carefully. Sometimes the only way to silence a rumor is to rewrite the story. David's brow furrowed. Rewrite it how? The VC folded her hands. If people believe you two have a respectable relationship, their judgment will fade. It doesn't have to be marriage, just something official. A public statement that confirms you both have a personal connection. Amara froze. You want us to pretend we're together? David turned to her, surprised but thoughtful. It might work. She blinked. Work? David, this isn't some publicity stunt. This is my life. I know, he said gently. But if the world sees me protecting you openly, they'll stop treating you like prey. Amara stood abruptly, her chair scraping the floor. And when they ask for proof, what then? You'll hold my hand on camera while your mother watches from her mansion? The room went silent. The VC cleared her throat. Think carefully before you answer. This could save your reputation and your scholarship. Amara turned sharply. So if I don't lie, I lose my education? Not from us, the VC said softly. But the sponsors might reconsider. Amara's throat closed up. It wasn't just about school, it was her future, her parents, everything she had worked for. David rose slowly, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You don't have to decide now. Let's step outside. They left the room, walking down the quiet corridor. Students peeked through doors, whispering. Amara stopped and turned to him, her voice trembling. You shouldn't have come, David. The moment they see us together, I'm finished. He looked at her with something close to pain. You're not finished. You're being tested. She laughed bitterly. Tested? I lost everything for you. My innocence, my peace, my name. What else is left to test? He stepped closer. Amara? Don't, she said, her voice cracking. Don't make this harder. Just go back to your world. Let me face mine. For the first time since they'd met, David didn't know what to say. He watched as she walked away, her small figure swallowed by the long, echoing hallway, and something inside him shifted. He realized he wasn't just grateful to her. He was beginning to care for her. Later that evening, Amara sat alone at the school park, watching the sunset melt into orange and gold. Her phone buzzed with messages, some cruel, some kind, but she ignored them all. A gentle voice broke her thoughts. You shouldn't be sitting here alone. She looked up. It was Madame Cole. Amara stood immediately. Good evening, Ma. The older woman smiled faintly. Sit, my dear. I came to talk. Amara hesitated, then sat again. Madame Cole took a seat beside her, her wrapper rustling softly in the breeze. My son told me everything, she said after a pause. And I owe you more gratitude than words can carry. Amara nodded politely. Thank you, Ma. But, Madame Cole continued gently, you must understand, people like us live under a spotlight. Every move David makes is scrutinized. This incident, no matter how innocent, will follow him for years. I understand, Amara whispered. Madame Cole looked at her with kind but calculating eyes. That's why I need to know your intentions. What do you want from my son? Amara blinked. I don't want anything. The woman smiled faintly. Everyone wants something. Tears welled in Amara's eyes. I didn't save him for money or fame, Ma. I did it because he was in danger. I didn't even know who he was. Madame Cole studied her face for a long time. You remind me of myself at your age. Honest, strong. But trust me, the world punishes honesty more than lies. Amara looked down. Then what should I do? Let David protect you, Madame Cole said softly. Even if it means pretending to be more than what you are. Amara's heart pounded. You mean, pretend to be his girlfriend? If that's what it takes to make people stop talking, yes. Amara shook her head slowly. That would be a lie. The woman smiled sadly. My dear, sometimes lies are the only shields truth has left. She stood, adjusted her wrapper and added quietly, whether you like it or not, the world has already written its version of your story. Now it's up to you to decide which ending they'll believe. As she walked away, Amara sat still, her heart heavy. She thought of her parents in the village, the shame the rumors might bring, the fear in her mother's voice when she eventually found out. She thought of the scholarship she might lose, the future slipping away. Then she thought of David, the man she had saved and the one who might now be her only chance to survive what she had lost. And as the sun sank below the horizon, Amara realized she was standing at a crossroads between truth and protection. And whichever path she chose would change everything. The next day dawned quieter, but the air still felt charged, like the world was holding its breath. News vans had cleared from outside the Cole mansion, but online the storm hadn't stopped. Rumors now twisted into wild stories. Some said Amara had been David's secret lover, others claimed she was carrying his child. Amara sat on the balcony, her head buried in her arms, scrolling through hundreds of hateful comments. Each one cut deeper than the last. She trapped him. That girl is lying, she planned it all. These poor girls will do anything for money. Her chest tightened until she could barely breathe. The door opened behind her. David stepped out holding 2 cups of coffee. You shouldn't read those, he said softly. I can't help it, she whispered. They're talking about me like I'm some monster. He set the cups down and crouched beside her. You're not. You're the bravest person I've ever met. She looked up at him, tears welling in her eyes. Brave? David, I feel ruined. Everyone's judging me for something they don't even understand. My friends stopped calling. My classmates avoid me. I can't even look at myself. David hesitated, then reached out and gently held her hands. You didn't ruin anything. You saved a life. Mine. His sincerity made her heart ache. Then why does it feel like I'm the one who died that night? He didn't answer. He couldn't. Because he knew she was right. The world had turned her sacrifice into shame. A knock came at the balcony door. One of the guards stood there. Sir, Madame Cole wants to see both of you in the main sitting room. David helped Amara stand. Come on, he said softly. The sitting room looked like something out of a royal palace. Madame Cole sat at the center of the room in a golden armchair, her posture regal. Across from her sat a group of well-dressed men and women, university officials and PR consultants. Good morning, she said as they entered. Good morning, Ma, Amara murmured. Madame Cole gestured toward a seat. Sit down, my dear. Amara obeyed, her palms sweating. David sat beside her. One of the men adjusted his glasses. Mr. Cole, Miss Uday, thank you for coming. We've been working round the clock to manage public perception, but the situation is volatile. David folded his arms. Meaning? The man sighed. Meaning your names are trending worldwide. Half the public thinks you're a hero and she's your secret fiancé. The other half thinks she's a gold digger who trapped you. Amara flinched. Madame Cole spoke calmly. We need to release a statement that clarifies everything without worsening it. And I've made a decision. David glanced at her warily. What decision? Madame Cole looked directly at Amara. You two will hold a joint press conference. Amara's heart stopped. What? Yes, Madame Cole continued. You'll appear together. You'll tell the world that nothing inappropriate happened. That you were both victims of circumstance. We'll control the story before it controls us. David frowned. Mother, that's not necessary. It is, she interrupted sharply. And it's the only way to protect her. Amara's voice trembled. Ma, what if they don't believe me? Madame Cole's eyes softened. Then let them see David stand beside you. The world believes what it sees, not what it hears. There was a pause. The air felt heavy, and the sound of the ticking clock filled the silence. Finally David nodded. All right. We'll do it. Amara looked at him, unsure whether to feel grateful or terrified. That evening the press gathered at the Cole estate. Cameras flashed, microphones hovered in the air, and reporters whispered as David and Amara stepped onto the podium. David wore a tailored black suit. Amara was dressed modestly in a soft pink gown Madame Cole had chosen for her. Her hair was braided neatly and her face looked calm, at least on the outside. Inside she was trembling. David began, his voice steady and commanding. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you all for your concern. A few nights ago, I was attacked after a charity fundraiser. I owe my life to a young woman named Amara Uday, who courageously risked her safety to help me. Camera flashes erupted. She is not my mistress, he continued. She is not my fiancée. She is simply a good person who acted selflessly. Please respect her privacy and her dignity. Amara's turn came. She stepped forward, gripping the microphone tightly. Everything you've heard online, it isn't true. I didn't even know who David was when I helped him. I only did what I thought was right. Reporters started shouting questions. Did you spend the night together? Were you aware he's a billionaire? Are you in love with him? The noise was deafening. David took the microphone again. That's enough, he said firmly. This young woman has been through enough. The only reason she was with me that night was because she saved my life. That's all. And with that, he guided Amara off the podium, ignoring the barrage of flashing lights and murmurs that followed. Inside the house, after the conference, Amara sat on the couch, her body shaking. David, that was horrible. They didn't believe us. They will, he said gently. Give it time. She looked at him, eyes glistening. I don't want time. I want my life back. Before he could answer, Madame Cole entered, her expression unreadable. You did well, she said quietly. Both of you. Amara tried to smile. Thank you, Ma. Madame Cole took a slow breath then said, "But the gossip will not stop no matter what you say. People always choose scandal over truth." David frowned. "So what now?" His mother hesitated. "Then we changed the story completely." Amara's heart skipped. "How?" Madame Cole looked at her son then at Amara. "You two will get engaged, officially." Amara gasped. "Engaged? Ma, that's impossible." David stood stunned. "Mother." "Listen," Madame Cole said firmly. "They already believe there's something between you. If you make it official, the rumors turn into celebration. No one mocks a bride. They honor her." Amara stared at her in disbelief. "You can't be serious." The older woman's voice softened. "Child, sometimes life forces us into choices we didn't plan. This will protect you both. Temporarily at least." David ran a hand through his hair. "This is madness." "No," Madame Cole said quietly. "This is strategy." Amara stood slowly, her chest tight. "You're asking me to lie to the entire world again. But this time not just for protection, for publicity." Madame Cole looked at her kindly. "No, my dear. I'm asking you to survive." The words hung in the air like a prayer and a curse at once. Amara met David's eyes. There was fear there and something else, something that looked a lot like fate. That night, lying in her room, Amara couldn't sleep. The city lights outside shimmered like stars over chaos. Engaged to a billionaire. Sounded like a fairy tale. But she knew better. This wasn't love. It was survival. Morning came with a strange quietness, like the city itself was waiting to see what David and Amara would do next. The entire nation was talking. The night before, the press conference had gone viral. Clips of David defending Amara played on every major news channel. Some praised him for his integrity. Others mocked him, claiming it was all damage control. But the most explosive headline came from a gossip blog that morning. David Cole secretly engaged to his poor savior? Amara read it on her phone and dropped the device onto the bed like it had burned her fingers. "This can't be happening," she whispered. "Engaged? Who's spreading this?" Before she could calm herself, a knock came at her door. "Come in," she said. David entered, phone in hand, looking troubled. "You've seen it?" She nodded, voice shaking. "They're calling me your fiancé again." "David, why won't this stop?" He ran a hand through his hair. "It's not from us. My PR team thinks one of the reporters leaked something from last night's meeting. It's out of control." Amara stood pacing the room. "Then tell them the truth. Tell them it's a lie." David sighed. "If I do, it'll only make things worse. Every denial just feeds the rumor." She looked at him with teary eyes. "So what now? Do we just pretend it's true?" He hesitated. "My mother, she thinks we should." Amara stared at him in disbelief. "You're agreeing with her?" "No," he said quickly. "I'm saying maybe, just maybe, it's the only way to end this madness. If we pretend to be engaged for a while, the attention dies down. After that, we tell the truth quietly." She folded her arms tightly across her chest. "You want me to live a lie in front of the whole world?" David's voice softened. "Just for a while, Amara. You'll be safe. The attacks will stop. And after this, I'll make sure your scholarship, your future, everything you've lost, is restored." Her lip trembled. "And what about my dignity, David? What about the truth?" He looked at her helplessly. "The truth is already gone. The world took it from you." Amara sat slowly on the edge of the bed, tears spilling freely now. "I wanted a simple life. Graduate, get a job, help my parents, not this circus." David crouched before her, his voice gentle. "I know. But life doesn't ask what we want, it throws storms at us. And we can either drown, or walk through them." She met his gaze. His eyes held exhaustion, regret, and something else, something she couldn't name. "I'll only do it," she whispered finally, "if you promise one thing." He leaned closer. "Anything. That when this is over, you'll tell everyone the truth, that nothing happened between us. That I'm not what they think I am." David nodded solemnly. "I promise." Later that day, Madame Cole summoned them both to her private lounge. The older woman sat elegantly on a velvet sofa, phone in hand, surrounded by her PR team. "Good," she said when they entered. "You've both agreed?" Amara hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "Excellent," Madame Cole said briskly. "We'll control the narrative. The engagement will be private but confirmed through selective channels. You two will make your first public appearance together this weekend at the charity gala. Subtle affection, nothing overdone. The press will eat it up." David frowned. "Mother, this is not a movie." She smiled faintly. No, my dear, it's politics. Amara stood stiffly, her stomach twisting. So I'm just playing a role? Madame Cole turned to her gently. You're playing the part life forced on you, child. Do it well and it will protect you. Amara looked down, unable to respond. The next few days were a blur of fittings, rehearsals, and whispers. Amara was given new clothes, jewelry, and a soft media training session where she was taught how to smile for cameras and answer gentle questions gracefully. Every night she went to bed exhausted, and every morning she woke with a heavier heart. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was living someone else's life. The night before the gala, she stood before her mirror, dressed in a flowing emerald gown. Her hair was styled in soft curls, her makeup elegant yet simple. She barely recognized herself. A knock came. It was David. He stopped at the door, stunned for a second. You look incredible. She gave a small smile. Thank you. I'm still trying to believe all this is real. He stepped closer, adjusting his cufflinks nervously. Amara, I know this isn't easy. But after tomorrow, everything will calm down. I promise. She studied him quietly. David, why are you really doing this? He hesitated, then said softly, because I owe you more than I can ever repay. Their eyes met. Something unspoken lingered between them, a tension neither of them dared to name. The next evening, the grand ballroom of the Eco-Atlantic Hotel shimmered with chandeliers and luxury. Influential guests, politicians, and celebrities filled the space. Reporters waited by the red carpet, flashes exploding like fireworks. David arrived first, surrounded by security. The murmurs began immediately. Then Amara stepped out of the black car beside him. The crowd gasped. Cameras turned. She's beautiful, one reporter whispered. That's the student, another said. No wonder he saved her. David extended his hand. She took it, heart pounding. Together they walked into the ballroom under 1,000 flashing lights. Inside, music played softly. People smiled, whispered, stared. Some offered polite congratulations, others smiled with hidden judgment. At their table, Madame Cole beamed like a proud mother. Perfect, she whispered. The world will adore you tonight. Amara forced a smile, though her palms were sweating. Hours passed. The event was nearly over when a reporter from a major news station approached their table. Mr. Cole, she said politely, microphone ready. The nation wants to know, how did you and Miss Uday fall in love so quickly? Amara's breath caught. David smiled gracefully. Sometimes love doesn't need time, it just needs truth. The crowd murmured in admiration. Cameras flashed. But inside, Amara's heart cracked. Truth? She thought bitterly. There's no truth left here. Later that night, after the event, David and Amara returned to the mansion in silence. She walked straight to her room, shut the door, and sank onto the floor. Tears she had held back all evening finally burst free. A knock came minutes later. Go away, she said softly. But the door opened anyway. David stepped in. Amara, talk to me. There's nothing to say, she whispered. I stood there pretending to be someone I'm not. Everyone was smiling and all I wanted was to disappear. He knelt beside her. I'm sorry. She looked up at him, eyes red. David, tell me something honestly. If I hadn't saved you that night, would you have ever looked at someone like me? He paused, guilt flickering in his eyes. I don't know. She laughed bitterly. At least you're honest. He took her hand gently. But now that I have, I can't stop. Amara froze, her heart thundering. David. He leaned closer, his voice low. I don't know when it happened, but I've stopped pretending. You're not just someone who saved me anymore. You've become the one person I think about every second. Amara's breath caught. You can't say that. This isn't real. He shook his head. It feels more real than anything else I've ever known. Their eyes locked, the air between them charged. For a long moment, neither moved. Then David whispered, I know this began as a lie, but maybe the lie brought me to the truth. Amara's voice trembled. And what truth is that? He smiled faintly. That I'm falling in love with you. Amara's world went still. The man who had once been a stranger, the billionaire she saved, was now looking at her like she was the only thing that mattered. But before she could speak, a phone buzzed sharply from his pocket. David answered it quickly and his expression changed instantly. What? He said, voice tight. Pause. Then he stood abruptly. We'll be right there. Amara frowned. What's wrong? He turned to her, face pale. There's been a leak. Someone sent footage from the motel that night. Amara's blood ran cold. What kind of footage? David's jaw clenched. The kind that could destroy both of us. The air inside the Cole mansion turned cold, sharp, suffocating, and thick with panic. Amara stood frozen by the doorway as David barked orders into his phone. His voice, usually calm and controlled, trembled slightly now. "Find out who leaked it," he said. "I don't care what it costs. Get every copy offline before it spreads." Madame Cole rushed in, her wrapper clutched tightly around her. "David, what's going on?" David lowered the phone, eyes dark. "Someone leaked a video from the motel that night." The color drained from Madame Cole's face. "A video? Of what?" Amara's voice cracked. "Of us?" David's silence was the answer. Her knees weakened and she gripped the wall to steady herself. "No," she whispered. "That can't be. There were no cameras in that room, there couldn't have been." "There was," David said grimly. "Hidden. Probably planted by the same men who attacked me. They must have sold the footage." Madame Cole's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh God." Amara's voice broke. "What did it show?" David looked away. "Enough to ruin reputations." She felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. Her breathing came fast and shallow. "No. No, no, no." Madame Cole turned to her son. "How bad is it?" "Bad," David admitted. "It doesn't show everything, but it shows us in that room, lights off, close together. Just enough to tell the wrong story." Amara's heart pounded in her ears. "They'll think." "Yes," he said softly. "They already do." Madame Cole sank into a chair, whispering prayers under her breath. "The press will destroy her. The university will expel her. David, this girl's life is over if that video spreads." Amara felt tears blurring her vision. "I didn't do anything wrong. I tried to help you." David took a step toward her, desperate. "I know. And I'll fix this." She pulled back, shaking her head. "You can't fix this, David. You can't erase the internet." He clenched his fists. "I can control the narrative. I'll call a press conference right now. I'll tell them everything, that it was my fault, that I forced you into that room." Madame Cole shot to her feet. "No, you won't. You'll destroy yourself." David glared at her. "Then what do you want me to do, watch her suffer for saving me?" Amara interrupted, her voice breaking. "Both of you stop. Please." Silence fell. She took a shaky breath, tears streaming freely now. "I don't care about the gossip anymore. I just want my life back. I want to wake up and not hate myself for doing the right thing." David stepped closer again, lowering his voice. "You are not the one who should feel shame, Amara. You did nothing wrong." "But they'll never believe that," she said through sobs. "In this country, a girl like me never wins. They'll call me names, spit on me, mock my family." Madame Cole's face softened with pity. "My dear, listen to me. You are strong. You survived worse than their words." Amara wiped her face. "Strong doesn't help when the whole world calls you a sinner, Ma." David's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it and his face turned pale. "It's already everywhere," he said quietly. "Twitter, YouTube, blogs. Even the international press has picked it up." Amara's stomach twisted. "What are they saying?" He hesitated. "They're calling you the Billionaire's motel girl." She covered her mouth with her hand, choking back a sob. "No." David placed the phone down gently on the table and turned to his mother. "If we don't act now, she'll never recover from this." Madame Cole swallowed hard. "What are you suggesting?" David looked straight at Amara. "We make it official." Amara blinked through her tears. "Make what official?" He took a step closer, voice steady. "Our engagement. For real this time." Madame Cole's eyes widened. "David." But he didn't flinch. "It's the only way, Mama. If the world thinks we're in love, if they think we were already engaged when that video was taken, then it stops being scandal. It becomes romance." Amara shook her head in disbelief. "You can't be serious." He stepped closer. "It's the only way to protect you. You'll be untouchable. They won't call you names anymore, they'll call you Mrs. Cole-to-be." Amara's hands trembled. "David, this isn't protection. It's another lie." He met her eyes, his voice breaking slightly. "Then let it be a lie that saves your life." Madame Cole interjected, her tone fierce. "Do you realize what you're saying? This will change everything, your image, your legacy, our family name." David turned to her. "And what good is a legacy if I let an innocent woman be destroyed for saving me?" The room fell silent. Even Madame Cole, proud and powerful, couldn't find words to argue. Amara looked at David, searching his face for some sign that this was just another performance. But there was only sincerity, pain, and something that looked dangerously close to love. You'd really do that? She whispered. For me? He nodded once. Yes. Tears welled again in her eyes. And when the truth comes out, that I wasn't really your fiancé? He took her hand gently. Then I'll make it real before it does. Her heart stuttered. What do you mean? He smiled faintly, but his eyes were sad. I mean, if I have to marry you to save you, I will. Amara stared at him, speechless. Madame Cole gasped softly. David Cole, do you know what you're saying? Yes, mother, he said firmly. For once, I'm not thinking about my company or my image or money. I'm thinking about the woman who risked everything for me. He turned back to Amara, his voice low and steady. I don't care if people think it's sudden or scandalous. If it means ending your suffering, then so be it. Amara's lips trembled. David, you don't have to do this. I do, he said. Because I can't stand by and watch the world destroy you for saving me. The air felt charged, as though the walls themselves were listening. Madame Cole closed her eyes, whispering a quiet prayer. Finally, Amara spoke, her voice soft but sure. Then if you're serious, you'll have to tell them tonight. David nodded. I will. That night, as the city buzzed with scandal, David walked into a press conference filled with flashing cameras and angry reporters. Amara stood just behind him, trembling but resolute. When the microphones went live, David raised his hand for silence. I know many of you have seen a video circulating online, he began. What you've seen has been twisted to destroy the reputation of an innocent woman, a woman who saved my life. Murmurs filled the hall. I will not allow that, he continued. The woman in that video is not my secret lover or a stranger. She is my fiancée Amara Uday. And I am proud of her. Gasps rippled through the room. David reached back, took Amara's hand, and guided her to stand beside him. Cameras flashed wildly. Reporters shouted questions. Amara looked up at him, eyes wide, but his grip was steady, reassuring. He turned back to the crowd. We met under extraordinary circumstances. What the world saw as scandal was simply love surviving chaos. The room erupted into noise, but his words drowned them all. For a moment, standing there beneath the glare of flashing lights, Amara felt something she hadn't felt in weeks, relief. Maybe it was a lie. Maybe it was madness. But for the first time, the world wasn't calling her a curse. They were calling her his. Later, after the press left and silence returned, Amara turned to him, tears glimmering in her eyes. David, what have you done? He smiled faintly. I've done what I should have done from the start, stood by you. She stared at him for a long moment, torn between gratitude and fear. And if your mother never forgives you? He reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you do. Her breath caught. You mean that? He nodded. Every word. Amara didn't reply. She just looked at him, the man whose world had ruined hers and the same man now trying to rebuild it. Maybe it wasn't love yet. Maybe it was something stronger. Fate. Morning broke with golden light, but the Cole mansion was far from peaceful. Outside the gates, the press swarmed like bees, their cameras flashing and voices rising. Inside, phones buzzed nonstop. The world had a new obsession, the billionaire and his brave fiancée. Every TV station replayed the clip from the press conference. Every headline carried their names. Some called it the greatest love story of the decade. Others called it a strategic cover-up. And through it all, Amara sat quietly in her room, staring at the engagement ring on her finger, the ring David had slipped on her hand right before the cameras. It sparkled under the morning sun, beautiful and terrifying at once. She whispered to herself, what have I become? There was a knock. Come in, she said softly. David entered, dressed in a simple white shirt and dark jeans. He looked tired, the kind of exhaustion that no sleep could fix. You didn't eat breakfast. I wasn't hungry, she said. He sat beside her on the edge of the bed. We did what we had to do, Amara. She turned to him slowly. Did we? Or did we just bury the truth deeper? He sighed. The truth doesn't survive in the open anymore. It gets torn apart until nobody remembers it. Amara's voice trembled. They believe we're engaged, David. They think we're in love. But I can't live a lie forever. David looked at her for a long moment before replying. Then maybe it doesn't have to be a lie. Her breath caught. What do you mean? I meant what I said last night. I want to marry you. Not because of what the world thinks, but because I want to give this story an ending it deserves. Amara blinked. You can't be serious. We barely know each other. I know enough, he said quietly. I know you're kind. I know you're brave. I know you gave up everything for me. She shook her head. That's not love, David. That's gratitude. He smiled faintly. Then let gratitude be the seed. Maybe it'll grow into something real. Amara stood, pacing the floor. You live in a different world. You have power, wealth, influence. I'm just a poor girl who can barely afford school. David rose too. And yet, when I was surrounded by all that power, none of it saved me. You did. Her eyes glistened. You don't understand. My name is dirt now. No man will ever look at me the same way again. He stepped closer, his voice soft but firm. Then I'll make sure they look at you with respect. As my wife. Amara froze. You mean that? He nodded. Completely. Madame Cole entered just then, her presence filling the room like thunder before a storm. David, may I speak with you alone? He hesitated, then said, whatever it is, you can say it here. The older woman's eyes flicked between them. Then I will. She faced Amara directly. My dear, I don't hate you. You saved my son's life, and for that I will always be grateful. But marriage is not the solution. Amara lowered her eyes. I agree, Ma. David turned sharply. Mother. Madame Cole raised a hand. No, listen to me. Marriage built on pressure never lasts. Right now the world sees you both as heroes. But love cannot survive the weight of the world's expectations. David's voice softened. This isn't about image anymore, Mama. It's about doing right by her. And what happens when the cameras turn away? She asked quietly. When the world finds another story, another scandal. Will you still want this life? David's jaw tightened. Yes. Madame Cole studied her son's face, then sighed deeply. You're your father's son, stubborn and proud. Fine. But remember, a wedding may silence the world, but it binds two lives forever. Don't promise forever if your heart isn't ready to carry it. David's gaze softened. Maybe it's time my heart learned. The older woman shook her head sadly, then turned to Amara. Child, think carefully. Love built on guilt will suffocate you. Amara whispered, I know, Ma. Then Madame Cole turned and left the room quietly, leaving the two of them alone again. For days, Amara wrestled with her thoughts. The world had started accepting their engagement as fact. Brands reached out for interviews. Her university reinstated her scholarship. Online, her image shifted from villain to victim, then to the woman who melted a billionaire's heart. But inside, Amara felt emptier than ever. One evening, she stood on the balcony, staring at the sunset over Lagos. David joined her silently, his hand brushing hers. He said softly, You've been quiet lately. She smiled faintly. I've been thinking. About us. About what's real, she said. About how easy it is to lose yourself when the world decides who you are. He looked at her thoughtfully. Then tell me, what do you want, Amara? She turned to face him, eyes steady. I want peace. I want my name back. I want to stop pretending. David nodded slowly. Then we'll tell the truth. Her eyes widened. You mean it? Yes, he said. The video's already old news. People will move on. We'll release a statement explaining everything, the truth about that night, about why you helped me and that nothing happened between us. Tears welled in her eyes. But they'll call you a liar. He smiled faintly. Then let them. I've lived long enough pretending to be perfect. It's time I act human. Amara's heart swelled with emotion. You'd risk your reputation for me again? He nodded. Every time. She took a deep breath, the first full one she'd had in weeks. Then let's do it. The next morning, David held a press briefing in his company's headquarters. Cameras flashed as he spoke with calm sincerity. The woman who saved my life deserves truth, not gossip. What happened that night was misinterpreted. Amara Uday is a hero, not a scandal. She didn't ask for fame or money. She only did what anyone with a good heart would do. He paused, then smiled softly. And though we are not engaged, she will always have my respect, my friendship, and my gratitude. The reporters murmured. Some were shocked, some disappointed, others moved. Amara watched from the side, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks. The lie had finally been buried, and with it, the weight she had carried for too long. Weeks passed. The noise faded. The headlines shifted to new stories. Amara returned to her studies, her scholarship reinstated. Though whispers still followed her, they no longer cut like before. She had faced fire and walked through it stronger. David visited often, always quiet, always kind. They spoke like friends who shared a bond that words couldn't fully explain. One evening, as she walked out of her campus library, she found him waiting by his car. He smiled. I missed you. She blushed. You were gone for weeks. I needed to rebuild things, he said. For both of us. She tilted her head. Rebuild how? He handed her an envelope. Inside was an official letter from the Cole Foundation. Read. Full scholarship grant and appointment as youth ambassador for women's education, Amara Uday. Amara gasped. David, this is. He smiled warmly. The least I can do. You didn't just save me that night, you taught me what courage looks like. Her eyes shimmered. You didn't have to. I wanted to, he said softly. She looked at him for a long time, and for once there was no fear, no guilt, no noise between them, only peace. Months later, at the Foundation's annual gala, Amara stood on stage beside David as the audience applauded her speech about women's education and resilience. When the applause faded, David leaned closer and whispered, You know, I wasn't lying when I said I was falling for you. Amara turned to him, smiling gently. Maybe one day we can start again, without cameras, without lies. He smiled. I'll wait. And as they stood there under the bright lights, no longer billionaire and poor student, but two souls who had survived scandal, sacrifice, and fate, Amara finally felt what she had long prayed for. Freedom. Would you have trusted David after everything that happened? Could love truly grow from such chaos, or should Amara walk away for good? Share your thoughts below, and if this story touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to keep supporting more heartfelt African folktale stories like this one.